Hello, I am Zehra, a senior research associate at South Asia Research Institute for Minorities. Welcome to our podcast episode on the plight of minority, the issues, challenges, and way ahead. Today, we will be talking about the issues and challenges and a way ahead for minority communities in our society. Our guest for today is Sulochana Mohan. She is an independent journalist based in Sri Lanka. She is currently the deputy editor of Ceylon Today, a leading independent newspaper. She extensively writes and focuses on international relations, human rights, politics, policy, and social justice. She has worked for several foremost local newspapers. Sulochana bagged the Best Journalist Award of the Year and the Best Business Writer Award from Sri Lanka Editor Guild. She will be sharing her insights and experiences on this crucial topics. Thank you for taking out the time. How are you?
Thank you very much for tracing me. It's actually a privilege to be connected to you right now in this program. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you so much. So let's get started. My first question is, although we are pretty familiar with you and your work, I would like to start by asking, how would Miss Sulochana like to introduce herself to someone who has no idea about Sulochana? What further motivated you to write about social justice, minorities, human rights, and international relationships?
All right, to start with, my full name is Sulochana Ramiah Mohan. So said that I'm a senior journalist now. Well, been I started my journey in the 90s, mid 90s, and I started at the newspaper called the Island Newspapers, and I was mainly a sports person to start with. While in college, I was a very good sportswoman, and I bagged all the champion. Awards and stuff. But when I came back to Sri Lanka from Pune, I was studying there. The country was in actually during it was a fully fledged war. It was since I was a sports person, my dad and mom really wanted me to join the police. So that I will be a person in the police field, but in the sports section. But again, it reminded me that the minorities are now that the war is going between the government or the majority of the people who consider the Tamils are fighting against them, especially the LTT combatants. They thought it was not a suitable time to employ a Tamil back to in the police field. So that opportunity I lost, and I didn't want to do anything else and followed my father's step as a journalist. And I joined the newspaper. I had nothing to do actually. I was not focused on these things. So there was trust issue at that time itself, where the Tamils as a minority could not engage in taking a role in the forces, joining a military or police at that time because of the war. So there again, I was a little bit feeling very sad that I couldn't pursue my sports aspirations to be a sportswoman. So I followed and joined the newspaper. Initially, it was just another job, but I was compiling the youth page, children's page, and doing little various agendas that has nothing to do with my real nature. I'm a fun person, so I was involved in music and reviewing music and in all this fun stuff in Sri Lanka when the war was going on. But I realized there is something bad taking place behind my back, or unable to see them. But it was this is the time I saw some of my relatives in the northeast fleeing from Sri Lanka, in the northeast where the war was going on. They fled to South India in boats. There are a lot of relatives and families who died, capsized in boats, capsized in the sea, and also a lot of other stories where my good friends who studied with me in Sri Lanka when disappeared. So I was like, wondering what is this and what am I doing, sort of. But I was waiting for the right time to start my career into serious journalism. But at that point, I was just a reporter doing little errands like children's page, youth page, and musical coverage and stuff. But after some time, after 13 years, I was doing all this sub editing, was like basically doing the pages on there, and I didn't have my space. So I immediately moved to another section where I was the associate editor of a lifestyle magazine. And again, it didn't seem to be the right path for me because that was again not a serious job as such. That can be done by somebody, anyone, I thought. So, but when I came back again, I stayed for a while at home having my baby, and then I finally joined as a deputy business editor in another newspaper. But there was shortage of staff, and one fine day there was this huge argument about the Tamil minorities and separatism in the country, and I was asked to interview a Tamil politician. Is Mr. Sumantran. Everybody knows him, M.A. Sumantran. So I called him and said, "Shall we do an interview?" That was my first political interview ever. That is after how many years? It was in 2008, not very old. I started in 1995, but 2008 is the time I really thought I should do something. So when I called him and I said, I will do this interview, but I will speak to you as a person from the majority community. I will not talk like a minority because I don't want to be addressed. I didn't know actually. Not really not know, but I thought he will tell the truth at that time. So I was asking very confrontational questions as to why do you want a separate homeland? Why do you think the Tamils need a land for themselves? And sort of a questions for which he really answered. The Tamils saw me as somebody that who is not very. They were not very comfortable with my questions on because being a Tamil, I'm asking this sort of questions like a Sinhalese majority. The Sinhalese were also thinking that I was not doing a good job because I was asking all sort of rash questions towards this person. But it did receive a lot of rave, what do you call, comments as well. But then that's the point when I really thought I should start doing something, but in the field of journalism, real journalism, where you focus on rights issue and minority issues and all this racial disharmony and all sort of things. But the minority community issue became real more stronger when one of my friends who was in the eastern province, she was supposed to get married to somebody, but then she came across a very disturbing event in our house that was barely reported in the newspaper. When I contacted her later, it was known to be that she was followed by a military person who really liked her, I suppose, and she never gave her thoughts. She said that she doesn't want his affair to go on or don't want him, rejected basically. Over which he was so angry, he came with a grenade following night, just before Christmas, and then threatened the family, asking the girl to say yes to him. And then she refused, and of course, she was not in the house. Then over this argument, and the brother and the mother had been arguing with him, the grenade fell off his hand, and he removed the clip and he was showing to her, saying that she has to agree to me, otherwise I will do something to your family. And on the spot, the brother and the mother were killed. But the paper reported saying it was a crossfire. They got caught a crossfire between whatever fight between the LTT combatants and the forces. So like that, over that she was disturbed and she was depressed, and I kept her in my place for some time, and she migrated. She's now in some country but doesn't want to talk to me because she can recall those bad experience she had. Over this, I thought this is not the time to relax and do some journalism. That is not actually needed. Basically, I wanted to even feel that I am doing something to the society. I'm a Sri Lankan, proper Sri Lankan, but fourth generation Indian origin Tamil. My forefathers were South Indians, and they had come here 200 years ago, probably to do business, and they had this plantation sector where they worked. So in that scenario, my whole family were caught in this whole civil war, and our house was burnt during the 83 riots. So those are bad, what do you call, memories that still I feel we have to come out of this system. We have to come out of these narratives where the minorities are different and minorities are doing all the bad things in this country, because now the war is over, thank God. it happened, so that everybody welcomed it. But the war within the community is still continuing. So I thought my job is basically to do proper journalism, highlight on human rights issues, and all the various aspects of corruption, because corruption also is a part of a problem that will impact on all the communities in this country. So this is where my journey started, and today I'm the deputy editor for Ceylon Today newspaper.
That's very impressive, and I just wanted to thank you for the brief answer and response. So, the next question is, the religious minorities have played an important role in the development of every nation, yet they face injustice of which you are aware and said earlier. As a journalist, how do you become a voice of oppressed minority groups, and on which firms do you raise your voice?
Well, I started as a journalist, basically highlighting the problems of Sri Lankan community. It doesn't mean religious minority or majority. So when you highlight the problems in the country, it does have its own set of what was setbacks. Now, the story is who is talking about it. Now, I'm from the minority community and I'm talking about it. So there are mixed reactions coming on these things. So because of that, what I do is I basically wanted to concentrate yet on the human rights issue, which is priority for a country like Sri Lanka, which saw a war of 30 years of civil war of 30 years. So what I did was I started from the northeast, because after the war, there were a lot to be done there. So I concentrated there, and I did a lot of talking and writing about people's problems, which eventually turned out to be politics. Because this war itself is politics. So the people suffering is also part of a politics. Everything was connected to politics, and it was demoralizing the community more and more, because there were no alternatives for them to restructure, rebuild their life. So there were countries coming in trying to do help, and the government tried to do many things, but still they were the lost people. I'm referring to the minority community, means not only when it's north and east, it's the Muslim community as well. They were also badly impacted by the war, but yet the Tamils, who had a bigger say politically, it was a war over a political move, where they wanted the rights of the Tamils to be established. A national question was lingering from 1956, and they were grown even that time. So there were riots over and again in several times, but then we couldn't overcome the real problem to resolve the issue, but we went on arguing, debating, on and off, having ethnic riots and clashes between communities. So the resolving of the problem has still not taken place up to date. So as long as the problem is not resolved, there is human rights violations going on in this country. There are lots of aspects where we need to deal with reforms we needed in the constitution, because the constitution needs continuous reform according to the situation, according to the life and life of the people, because there will be a need for a lot of room to develop the country. Then you need to divert the attention towards the humans, or the citizens of this country, where you develop their social welfare as well, because if the people are not happy, development doesn't take place well. So it's all interlinked and it's interconnected. So the print media where I work has given me a lot of space where I can work on connecting ourselves with humans and giving space for humans or Sri Lankans like me. If I wanted the same right, I'm sure the other people also would like to have the same right in their place in the society. So this long walk for freedom for the minorities continuing. So basically, I wanted to tell you that the challenges are heaps. It's big load, and but the government and the people are now aware of the situation, with lots of inputs, lot of information coming in, and exposures taking place about what's happening in every nook and corner of this country. The government cannot relax, nor the journalists. So we are fighting a war within ourselves, a war with the state, a war with the officials, a war with the communities. A lot of things are happening, but we at end of the day we want to see some justice prevailing for everybody, and equal rights and equal what do you call equal equally treated. We need people to be equally treated in the same manner where another community wants to be treated, or I would like to be treated. So all this is going on, but still a long way to go. That's where we are still there, and challenging the system, challenging the issues, challenging the policies and reforms, etc.
I agreed with you, and I'm sure the audience will love your insight like I do. So, the other question is, as you are the currently deputy editor of Ceylon today, a leading newspaper, independent newspaper, how do you highlight the issues faced by, minority, you can say, and support the voice of victims and lost overs? How does your organization develop a trust based relationship with the victims or human right violations seeking your help?
Once you establish yourself as a legitimate journalist with no hidden agendas, people begin to trust you. Building trust is a challenging risk, because it's a process. You can't become a trustworthy journalist overnight. So that's how my journey started, and today I'm at this position. I'm a full-time writer because I understand the importance of being a trusted journalist and a source of information, and not to lose all those connections I made for the last almost 28 years. And I have built it in such a way, and I don't want to disrupt that or discontinue my activities connected with the people. I believe all the communities deserve to be heard. First of all, I'm incredibly privileged to have the opportunity to travel extensively throughout the country and personally connect with individuals who rely on media. During my journeys, I have had this chance to meet with plantation sector workers of Indian origin, shedding light on their dire living condition and the exploitation of their rights. I have visited Muslim villages located in border of south, north and east, witnessing firsthand how they have deprived of their land rights after living for centuries. Moreover, I have encountered a marginalized Sinhalese people. The majority people in certain community area, they are a small community who have been sidelined and stripped of their rights to live and use their village roads, and especially in construction and development of the southern province. Some of the Sinhala people have lost their villages for development purposes. So that is also an issue, all human rights related issues. There were rampant rights issues during COVID pandemic also. Minority communities suffered greatly due to rights violations such as burial rights of the Muslims. And the plantation sector had no food and item distributed evenly, because city people managed somewhat, but the estate plantation sector, remote areas on the mountains, and it was disproportionately impacted by inadequate distribution of essential goods for them. So Ceylon today has been truly a good voice of the people, I would say. I worked in many newspapers, but here I see a lot of space for this kind of exposure. We don't think twice when it comes to committing and upholding media ethics and right reporting. I am grateful to work alongside like-minded journalists who share the vision of and perspectives groups. Together, we have striving to do a lot of issues and get to expose corruption, legitimate rights of the people, and show accountability. And we have pushed for these things very often. One particular incident in my memory is that a Muslim gentleman in the eastern province who used to read my interviews of minority aspects, he used to translate. He's an English speaking Muslim gentleman, but he used to translate. He's a trader. He sits and he keeps all these shop owners around him, and he used to translate my stories and tell them what I have written. There are unseen people. I mean, we don't know everybody. This particular gentleman only calls me and he tells me that he has read these stories. People are telling about this issue, that issue, and he gave me a lot of provisions to write about minority issues in the eastern province, which I did accurately, and I was so overwhelmingly happy about it. But sadly, he died of some some ailment, and now I lost that contact. But there are like this lot of unseen people who see such stories on my rights issue, because that is the end of the day. That's what matters. First, food, lodging, which is part of rights, our rights, and then education. So if these are hampered, then people tend to look for alternatives or look for people like us how to get about and get their work done. So we are always there to not to support them, but at least give them the directions how they can get their rights implemented. Tell them where to go, whom to meet, what to do, because we are not supposed to do the social service, but end of the day, when they need help, we do this. Even with my coverage on corruption, I have received significant free feedback and support from readers ranging from businessmen and politicians, big and small, to villagers, officials from both state and private sector. It's heartening to know that my work resonates with such a diverse audience, and it inspires me continuously. And my journalism career has taken very much meaningful because of the people around me. I thank them for that.
Oh, that's very nice. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us. So, coming to the most important question regarding the concerning Lankans oppressed groups, they face violation over their constitutional rights to the religious freedom in many forms, including hate speech, discriminatory practices, threats, and physical violence. How do you address all of these as a journalist?
Yeah, newspapers have a vital role in working alongside the citizens of the country. When I actually joined the newspaper industry, I thought it was just another job, but I realized it's a lot more to be done. It's a job on the ground. It's not on the telephone. So occasionally, or at least once in 3 months, we used to leave the office to go and meet the people and have a first-hand experience as to what they are going through. So this in a digitized era, it's a trends keep on changing. Dynamics of news are constantly evolving, and the information leaks, exposure of so much of news there, we cannot afford to rest. Journalists cannot. If you stay quiet, the news becomes stale. You miss a lot of news. So it's a job on a continuous job. It's a 24 hours job. A journalist, you call them on call jobs. So you need to be on the ball, just saying what is happening around. If we fail to do that, then we often forget a lot of news. So this makes this job is very challenging. I have consciously chosen to focus on sensitive topics because it tells a different story. Yeah? I firmly believe that the positive news are supposed to take place in a country. Positive life is about positive. So positivity has to be there 24 hours. Positive news have to, but it's not so. What happens to the negative stories? We need to have them highlighted, because positive news is anyway good for people. There's nothing to worry. If I get 3 meals per day, it's a positive news. There's nothing to write about 3 meals a day or one person is saying. But if he has 1 meal per day, then it's news. I mean, he can't afford to have one meal per day, because that's not usual. So I am concentrating these unusual things that are happening around and trying to dig into matters that needs more exposure. This commitment is continuous effort. Actually, I really view this something should be done every day. Something new. For instance, an elementary school in a room in a remote area is having 3 meals and giving nutritional education and good food. It doesn't have to have a big space, because that's how it has to be a nursery school. But if the same nursery school doesn't have all these basics, no food given to the children, then that has to be highlighted. Some people think I'm only following negative stories. It's not negative story. Those are persisting problems in the country. Persisting problems need to be highlighted, not the that are problematic. Not the persisting good things no need to be highlighted. If I'm 3 meals, I don't need to highlight that. Simple as that. In this, there are a lot of debates why I am getting involved in sensitive issue, but this is my explanation, because we have to encounter problems in our lives, not encounter happiness. Happiness has to come, eventually it will come, but you encounter problems on and off. Those things have to be truly requires focus.
Quite interesting. Thank you. Coming to the next question, in South Asia, particularly in Sri Lanka, what criminal laws are used? Furthermore, as evidenced by minority concern, which laws you think needs to be amended?
Okay, Sri Lanka's legal system is actually very complex, and it has English common law, Roman Dutch law, Muslim law, customary law, all that is there. But the foundation of criminal law is a procedure is rooted in English common law. So we have following British colonial period. British laws are gradually implemented in this country. But while the laws are plenty, if you enact them or implement them properly, we will not have this sort of a problem. But it seems that the law is misinterpreted most of the time, and it needs more reforms because it has to be black and white. What you're saying cannot have loopholes. There cannot be additional clauses, which is interpreted in different ways. For example, now the criminal minorities suffer because of this Prevention of Terrorism Act, which was enacted 40 years ago when the war was there. It was an emergency thing that was needed. But now it's still going on, and it's widely criticized by everybody. Arbitrary and prolonged detention and extraction of false confession through torture and targeting minority community. This is happening. It cannot be disputed. The entire country knows about it. It is regarding abusive counter-terrorism law actually. It was during the war, but now the argument is why now? Why do you need it now? But it's still there because uh, there is a notion that the war is not so the LTT is emergence can re-emerge at some point. So this fear is there. So this Prevention of Terrorism Act or the PTA, the government, the successive government think they need to have it just to take control of the situation. So numerous Tamil they suspected they have engaged in terrorism are still in the prison. You'll be surprised there are some detainees who are living for over 20 years under this PTA law. So these need to be removed or repealed. That's the position most of the people in the country wanted. Under this law, they even during the Easter bombing attacks, there were so many Muslims were taken under this law, and because you are not given a chance to try in the court, you don't have a lawyer to work with you. So this is an issue because if you don't have a lawyer, then who will speak on behalf of you? Who will fight for your case? I mean, you have to have, but this PTA doesn't allow all that. So this is basically a draconian law, which most of the minority communities don't want it. In fact, the civil society, where the majority, the people of the majority community are also fighting for this, to asking them to remove it. Also, there's this International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, ICCPR, which is also like sort of it's there, but it's misused, and they suppress and they suppress people from freedom of speech and stuff. So ICCPR Act is also kind of a need to be clarified properly and defined what it is, because under this many people are taken into custody, and it's undermining the intent purpose. Basically they are taken over violating this law. So and then we have this homosexuality is criminalized in Sri Lanka under this the section of 365 of the 1883 penal code, inherited from the British rule. The third gender is not legally recognized too in this country. There's also minority community we have. So they can be punished if involved in homosexuality in this country. So Sri Lanka said it to be feeling shameful that we have LGBT child in your family. But today 55% of the Sri Lankans are supporting a legislation to remove this, to decriminalize the LGBT LGBT legislation. So, but anyway, for our surprise or for our hard work, I think this year the Supreme Court clear path to decriminalize homosexuality. The law has been enacted, but again, it's a practicality that is involved. How can this be enacted? Now we know for sure this gender equality is a problem in this country, but then when you come across a lot of discrimination, you see a lot of this third gender or the LGBT community or a trans men and women, they are having a lot of problems in the society. But will they arrest immediately and do things practically is what we need to see. But we still don't know how this law is enacted, but how it will be implemented and practically used for in our future, in the future. The issue regarding land rights for Tamils of Indian origin is a contentious issue also, because there are people who have come from Indian origin, India 200 years ago, but they still don't have land rights in this country. They are workers basically. They have been made citizens of this country. Still, they don't have rights over their land, or the place where they live is not theirs, because the plantation is entirely given to the regional plantation companies, and they are handling this issue. Government has nothing to do. So, to giving a land to these people is a most tedious job, and is a very disadvantage coming, because in Sri Lanka, most of them don't have land rights because it's an island country. So this entire civil war, as well as the whole issue of ethnic and racism, comes into play because of the land matter in this country. So that part of the thing, where the plantation sector doesn't get their land rights, these needs a lot of attention. And the basically equality, inequality, injustice, irrespective of their ethnicity and their religious background, is going continuing, because you don't have a way where you can go talk to an official and sort it out, because there is no such things taking place. If you want to get your land to your name, it's a huge process, and it takes 6 to 7 years for sometimes, or even 20 years. I have seen that myself, where the ledgers are 20 years old, still asking for the land, ownership of a land. So these are the setbacks minorities are facing. But I would say that the Tamils and the Muslims have strived a lot to get their space, legitimize their presence in this country. The fight is continuing.
I appreciate your informative response. Thank you. So now the question is on South Asian contacts. South Asian countries drive towards religious leadership have left the little place for minority, affected that will certainly lead to more unstable and intolerance in the region. Do you agree with that?
Of course, yes. The intolerant and hateful rhetoric directed towards religious minorities in Sri Lanka has had a detrimental impact on peace and stability within the country. Okay, it has resulted in a deep division within the society based on race and religion. Many individuals who have fled such situation have sought asylum in the West, where they have found lots of opportunities and a thriving life actually. But if the same individual has remained in Sri Lanka, or for instance even in Pakistan, they could have done significant contribution to their home country. For instance, if you take example such a Pakistan origin prime minister in Ireland now, a Sri Lankan Tamils holding influential position in the US State Department and elsewhere in the world. They are renowned sports personalities around the world who left for US, Germany, Swiss and France as asylum seekers. They are great individuals who were suppressed in their own countries. Okay, these instances shows how minority communities, once given recognition and opportunities, have been able to shape and enrich societies in their parts of this world, in the world, and everywhere where they were settled now. It's vital actually for us to reflect on these matters and consider the implications. Okay, when individuals leave the country due to suppression and intolerance, it creates a void actually, and that continues further suppression and on the remaining people. Okay, if the society remains imbalanced in terms of thoughts and actions, and being negative all the time about the minorities, it will continue to face turmoil and instability. There is no other new good things going to come out of it. There will be no hope left for everybody if you don't give hope for the minorities and you don't consider them part of the system. And there is no hope for the entire country, because the minorities in Sri Lanka are actually established people. It's only about 250,000 of plantation workers who are marginalized, not everybody. And it's the same thing with the Muslim community. All of them are big businessmen in this country. They are very well-off people who are contributing to our business, our economy, and full of people who have been radicalized or having this association about being suppressed and having this connotation of being more concerned about their religion is not. But what happens end of the day, all of them are put in one basket, saying everybody is a terrorist, every Muslim is a terrorist, or every Sri Lankan is for separatism, every Sri Lankan Tamil is speaking for the LTT. This sort of narratives are always there, and it's a very hard to cut across this thought and sort of make understand that it's not that. If you demoralize your community, they are not going to give a good output. See, if I am being traumatized for being a Sri Lankan Tamil, my contribution to the country is not going to be great either. Okay, I will always be having these negative thoughts about me, not about me, or not only about me, about the society, and my communication with others would be very negative. So end of the day, it's not going to be good. So what do? You have to re-change or basically change this mindset of the people to remove this racist thinking. Religious intolerance can create a lot of what do you call disturbance mind psychologically, which is very sensitive thing. So these things have to be basically every Sri Lankan, every South Asian should come out of this kind of thoughts, and to create a society that is accepted by everybody, and not to be very selective.
Reply, we appreciate it. Having said that, the following concern is about how can we eliminate all these plight faced by minorities? Do you have any recommendation for how we might better serve justice and eradicate violence and hate crimes?
Yeah, it's disheartening to witness how deeply ingrained biases and prejudices can influence people's perception of news and stories, particularly when it comes to minority issues. As a journalist, I have personally experienced instances where my work has been associated with my ethnic background, leading to dismissals or disputes. Because I am from that community, when I write, it doesn't get validation. It is not seen as a unbiased reporting. It's frustrating actually to see the same issue covered by a non-Tamil journalist can be received differently. When I write the same story, it receives a different what do you call comments. I receive a different kind of attitude towards that article. But when the same story is written by a person from the majority community, there again they have a different way of receiving the news. So if I'm a writer and I'm supportive of the Tamil aspirations, and if the same thing is written by another community, is fact based, it is he's writing the truth. I am bewildered on these lines, because I have not seen things that way. That's the only issue. I recall an incident visiting the south, deep south, down is Sinhala Buddhist area, with a foreign journalist, and where I had to interview a Buddhist monk. Upon hearing my name, Sulochana Ramiah Mohan, Tamil name, he refused to talk to me. He just cut my conversation and he left that place. So it says about this lack of cross-cultural interaction in certain areas, contributing to the absence of reconciliation efforts. The prevailing polarized system extends to journalists as well, with divisions based on political and ethnic lines, and subtle validation issue persistently rising. Despite these challenges, we fight the system, unbiased reporting. It is important actually to overcome these perspectives that prioritize ethnicity over accuracy and significance of the issues at hand. The focus should be on highlighting what is right and just, irrespective of ethnic background. Breaking down these barriers and fostering a more inclusive media environment is crucial actually now for promoting understanding and reconciliation among all communities in Sri Lanka. So, unbiased reporting is very much important. Having a mindset to accept everyone as Sri Lankans can go a long way, I think. I would say that I raise issues in public because I'm a Sri Lankan, not because I am trying to be negative. I'm raising these issues because I'm a Sri Lankan and I want a good result for everybody in the country. It's not that I'm going to take anything from this conversation. So hate speech highlights by media person get dismissed over who is highlighting it. Because if I to a Muslim and a Muslim writer highlights it, it doesn't get many likings because he is a Muslim and he's against hate Muslims. So the impact is very less. So who writes what matters here in Sri Lanka? I'm sure it's in the South Asia as well. If you write about issue about the minority community and you are a minority, then the outcome or the result would be not that great. But if the same thing is written by from the majority community, it has a lot of welcoming. So I raise this issue all the time. Hate speech highlights the media and all that. So until such blind thoughts and narratives exist in social media and in public, we cannot fight back or put things in place related to minority issues and fighting their rights and their existence in their country.
Yes, of course, I agree with you. Thank you for sharing the useful information. Thank you. The last thing is SARIM. As you know, SARIM is a leading organization with a vision of defending the rights of minorities in South Asia. Would you like to collab with us to enhance the condition of South Asian minorities?
It would be an honor actually. And in fact, I would like to fully engage myself. That's what my future plans are. I'm not right now. I engage myself now that I have spent most of my time in the print media. You know, I've been there for almost 28 years. My next work would be a book on Sri Lanka and my role as a journalist. That is my small thought that is always there that I have to complete. I am waiting for the right moment. It's a great responsibility to address minorities issues in every country, because small. It's not just Sri Lanka. It's an issue, global issue. Minority problems are global issues. And if you fail to do so, it could result in loss of talented individuals and innovative minds leave the country. They will leave your country. I'm aware of many individuals who, due to frustration related to minority issues, have chosen to leave the country permanently. It is not just minorities who feel this way. There are also Sinhalese or the majority, people from the majority community, individuals who are frustrated over with this divisive politics of this country. They can't take this crap of the politics of this country. This demonstrates actually that when one segment of the society is affected, it affects the entire society or everybody suffers. The cremation of COVID-19 victims of Muslims shocked the Muslim world. Even the prime minister of your country, former prime minister, had to tweet and he said, now stop that. Don't have a burial cremation of the Muslim COVID victims. So our action matters now. You may not think that
Yes.
we are doing it somewhere in a corner of a country where people are not noticing. We are in a connected world. It's a global village. So it was. You must have seen the amount of what do you call reactions from the people cremated against their wish and against their religious practices. Similarly, even the PTA draconian law detaining people for 20 years without a trial. These are something that we need to look into. How can you do this? Yeah, so I'm surprised. so many negativities are attached to Sri Lanka right now. Also, it's a one part of the community is striving to do a lot of things to make this country a beautiful land where it was once upon a time looked as one of the beautiful country of peace. It's no more because now there is a constant what do you call evolving of ugly things like racism, religious intolerance, politics of divisive politics, or you polarize your community. These are the things that is catching the eyes of the world. They are talking about it more and more, and people are not talking about the good things the country is doing. They are always watching what are you doing towards the negativities happening in your country. So the government that is now in power is trying to reform some of their laws, which is not done yet. You have to change a lot of things to bring back the Sri Lanka into its old glorious times. It's a lot of work there. But the road towards that is quite long, I see, because of the complexity, or what do you call the complex? It's a complexity involved in three ethnic groups in this country: the Sinhala, Tamil, and the Muslims. It is and the laws that remain here are all not very sort of welcoming everybody into the platform, onto the platform. So there needs to be a lot to be done so that all these communities can come on one platform and fight and help each other when there is issues. So undoubtedly, the divide and rule mindset by the politician in this country, and divide and rule, when you say it's about racism, religious intolerance, all these are playing a vital role currently in this country. So good reforms, good mindset towards the minority communities, all have to be uplifted, and we need to work cordially and not address each other. See, I like to say he's a Muslim person, I don't mind, but now you cannot say it because so much of attachment to that word Muslims. So once upon a time we said, I have a Muslim friend, I had a Sinhalese friend, I had a Tamil friend, it didn't matter. But now we don't even use these racial terms because it gives a different picture, because that sensitive this country has become. So I'm looking forward to see that we get back to that older times where we use these words, it didn't matter to anyone. But now we supposed to not use those words, but still we have a lot of problems. So we need
Hmm.
to bring everybody on one platform and work towards a solution to resolve a lot of problems and make sure the country is on the right path.
Very enlightening. Thank you. We would love to share the platform with you or your work. Thank you. Many thanks. Therefore, we come to an end. Thank you for listening our broadcast episode on the plight of minorities. We hope this discussion has raised awareness and understanding of the issues and challenges faced by minority community. Let us all do our part in creating a more inclusive and equable society for all. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you.
Thank you very much, and it was my pleasure to be with you here online. And I think my message would go across Pakistan, one of my
Mhm.
favorite countries, and
Yes.
I will continue to keep a tab on your activities and keep me posted as well. Thank you very much once again.
Okay. Thank you so
Bye.
much. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.